What if being wrong was the smartest thing you could ever do? Think about it. Most of us spend our lives clinging to beliefs, defending our opinions like they're trophies, and avoiding the embarrassment of being wrong at all costs. But what if I told you, the real danger isn't in being wrong, it's in being absolutely sure you're right. In a world changing faster than ever, where yesterday as truths become today as myths, the people who succeed aren't the ones who know the most, but the ones who can unlearn, rethink, and relearn the fastest. And here's the shocking twist: the smartest people in the room aren't those with the strongest convictions, but those who have the courage to say, I might be wrong. If you are new to my channel, then please subscribe to my channel and support me to bring more amazing book summaries. Adam Grant's Think Again isn't just a book, it is a wake-up call to challenge everything you think you know, the big idea. Your ability to rethink is more valuable than your ability to think. This book shows us how to break free from the traps of stubborn certainty, embrace the joy of being wrong, and open not only our own minds but also the minds of those around us. Instead of clinging to old ideas, Grant teaches us to think like a scientist, test our assumptions, welcome doubt, and constantly update our mental software. Because in a world that never stops changing, the most dangerous mindset is not ignorance, it's arrogance. So let us dive into chapter 1, where we meet 4 characters inside our own heads: the preacher, the prosecutor, the politician, and the scientist. And trust me, you'll never think about your own thinking the same way again. Chapter 1: a preacher, a prosecutor, a politician, and a scientist. Have you ever noticed how, when someone challenges your beliefs, you instantly shift into defense mode? It's like your brain has its own courtroom. Adam Grant reveals that most of us cycle between 3 roles. As preachers, we protect our sacred beliefs. As prosecutors, we attack other people's arguments. As politicians, we campaign for approval and try to win people over. Here's the problem: all 3 mindsets are about defending, not discovering truth. And that's why we get stuck. Grant argues that the mindset we need most, the one we almost never use, is the scientist. A scientist doesn't cling to beliefs. They test hypotheses, welcome being wrong, and update their views based on evidence. Take an example: BlackBerry, the company that once ruled the mobile phone world. Their leaders acted like preachers and politicians, preaching that physical keyboards were essential and campaigning to preserve their dominance. But while they were busy defending their old beliefs, Apple was experimenting like a scientist, and the iPhone took over the world. The lesson: success belongs to those who think less like defenders and more like discoverers. And that brings us to the next chapter, because if we're supposed to think like scientists, how do we balance confidence in what we know with humility about what we don't? Chapter 2: the armchair quarterback and the imposter. Confidence is tricky. Too little of it, and you feel like an imposter, constantly doubting yourself. Too much of it, and you become an armchair quarterback, certain you know better than everyone else, even when you don't. Adam Grant calls this balance the sweet spot between confidence and humility, what he names confident humility. Think about doctors. Research shows that when doctors are too confident, they misdiagnose patients more often because they stop questioning themselves. But when doctors balance confidence with humility, they're more likely to run extra tests, double-check their thinking, and ultimately save lives. So confidence isn't about always believing you're right. It's about trusting your ability to learn while staying humble enough to rethink. The trap? Many of us don't realize when we've crossed into overconfidence. Just think of that friend who gives investment advice after watching 2 YouTube videos. They're not experts, they're just armchair quarterbacks. So how do we flip the script? By learning to enjoy being wrong. That's exactly what Chapter 3 uncovers: the joy of discovering our mistakes. Chapter 3: the joy of being wrong. Here's a radical idea. What if you could actually enjoy being wrong? Most of us fear it. Being wrong feels like failure. But Adam Grant flips the perspective. Being wrong means you just discovered something new, something you didn't know before. And that's exciting. He uses research on expert forecasters, people who predict world events like elections or wars. The best forecasters aren't those who are most accurate from the start. They're the ones who are quickest to admit mistakes and adjust their predictions. Being wrong isn't a dead end, it's the doorway to learning. Imagine thinking of mistakes not as proof of failure, but as progress reports. Grant even suggests reframing your reaction. Instead of saying, "I was wrong," try saying, "I learned something." It's the same fact but a completely different mindset. But if being wrong can be joyful, how do we deal with disagreements, conflicts, and heated arguments? That's where Chapter 4 takes us, The Good Fight Club. Chapter 4, The Good Fight Club. If you've ever avoided conflict because you hate arguments, Adam Grant has surprising news. The right kind of fight actually makes us smarter. The problem isn't disagreement, it's how we disagree. Most of us see conflict as war. We either attack, retreat, or try to win. But Grant shows that when done right, arguments can sharpen our thinking, uncover blind spots, and even strengthen relationships. Think of Pixar, the animation studio behind Toy Story and Finding Nemo. They have a tradition called brain trust meetings. In these sessions, directors show early versions of films and then invite colleagues to tear them apart. Sounds brutal, right? But the key is that the criticism is aimed at the idea, not the person. And because of this culture of constructive conflict, Pixar turns flawed drafts into masterpieces. That's the essence of the Good Fight Club, disagreements that focus on learning, not winning. But what happens when the other person doesn't want to listen? When they're stubborn, angry, or even hostile? That's where part 2 of Think Again begins, opening other people's minds. Chapter 5, Dances with Foes. Have you ever tried to change someone's mind only to watch them dig their heels in deeper? It's frustrating, but here's the twist. The harder you push, the more resistance you create. Adam Grant shows that persuasion is less like a boxing match and more like a dance. Instead of forcing people to accept your viewpoint, you need to move with them, not against them. For example, negotiators who use motivational interviewing, a technique where you ask open-ended questions, are far more successful than those who bombard people with arguments. Why? Because people are more likely to be persuaded by their own words than by yours. Imagine trying to convince a smoker to quit. Instead of saying, "You need to stop, it's killing you," you ask, "How does smoking fit with your goal of being around for your kids?" Suddenly, the person isn't defending against your attack, they're rethinking their own choices. The secret: good persuaders don't argue harder, they listen deeper. But listening isn't always enough. What about conflicts where emotions explode and hostility takes over? That's where Chapter 6 comes in. Chapter 6, Bad Blood on the Diamond. Disagreements are one thing, feuds are another, and when emotions run high, logic alone won't save you. Adam Grant illustrates this with a baseball story. Two teams locked in a bitter rivalry where anger kept escalating. Every argument, every insult just fueled more hostility. Sound familiar? It happens in politics, workplaces, even families. So how do you break the cycle? By focusing less on winning the argument and more on cooling the emotions behind it. One strategy is called empathic listening, acknowledging feelings before facts. Think about it. When you're furious, do you want data or do you want someone to say, "I hear you, I get why you're upset"? Once emotions settle, then minds open. Grant explains that in conflicts, emotions aren't noise, they're the signal. Ignore them and you lose. Address them and you unlock the path to real dialogue. But here is the real test. What if the beliefs are so deeply ingrained, like anti-vaccine stances or climate change denial, that facts bounce right off? That's where Chapter 7 takes us. Chapter 7, Vaccine Whisperers and Climate Negotiators. Here's a hard truth. Facts don't change minds, stories and trust do. Adam Grant dives into examples like vaccine whisperers, health workers who persuade hesitant parents to vaccinate their kids. They don't start with data or threats. Instead, they start with empathy, listening to fears, validating concerns, and slowly planting seeds of doubt about misinformation. The same strategy works in global climate negotiations. When negotiators approach stubborn leaders with lectures, they fail. But when they find common ground, like connecting climate policies to jobs or community pride, they create room for rethinking. It's not about bulldozing people with evidence. It's about meeting them where they are and gently guiding them to a new perspective. So the lesson is simple but powerful. If you want someone to rethink, don't attack their beliefs, connect with their values. But what happens when it's not just individuals resisting change, but entire organizations stuck in their old ways? That's where part 3 of Think Again begins: collective rethinking. Chapter 8. That's not the way we've always done it. How many times have you heard someone at work say, "But this is how we've always done it"? Those 8 words kill more innovation than failure ever could. Adam Grant shows that organizations often get trapped in tradition loops. Instead of questioning processes, they protect them. And in fast-changing times, this can be fatal. Take Blockbuster, for example. They laughed Netflix out of the room when offered a partnership. Why? Because they were stuck in the comfort of their old business model, rentals and late fees. By the time they realized the world had changed, it was too late. But some organizations embrace rethinking. Think about NASA. After the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster, instead of burying mistakes, they built a new culture of psychological safety where even junior engineers felt safe speaking up. That shift saved future missions. The big lesson: progress doesn't come from defending the old way, it comes from questioning it. But what if the people you're dealing with aren't just stuck in tradition? They're flat out unpersuadable. That's where Chapter 9 comes in. Chapter 9, Persuading the Unpersuadable. Some people are so stubborn, it feels impossible to change their minds. But Adam Grant argues these people are not hopeless. They just require a different approach. Take Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates. He built one of the world's most successful hedge funds by filling his company with people who disagreed with him. Why? Because instead of trying to win every debate, he created a culture where even the unpersuadables were challenged by reality. Here's the trick. Instead of telling stubborn people they're wrong, you let them bump into their own blind spots. You ask thoughtful questions, create small experiments, and allow reality, not your opinion, to do the persuading. Think of it like planting seeds. You don't force them to grow, you just create the right conditions. But even if you can get through to the unpersuadable, there's still one more danger: tunnel vision. That's what Chapter 10 is all about. Chapter 10, Escaping Tunnel Vision. Have you ever been so focused on a goal that you missed the bigger picture? That's tunnel vision, and it's deadly, not just for individuals, but for entire teams. Adam Grant points to research on firefighters. Tragically, many died in wildfires because they clung to their heavy tools while trying to escape. They were so locked into their training, never drop your equipment, that they couldn't rethink fast enough to save their lives. Tunnel vision also cripples businesses. Kodak invented the first digital camera in 1975, but they buried it because they were fixated on film sales. That narrow vision cost them an entire industry. Escaping tunnel vision means zooming out, questioning assumptions, and asking, what if we're wrong? What else could be true? The best leaders don't just celebrate focus, they build systems that encourage constant rethinking. That's how teams and companies stay alive in a changing world. And that leads us to the final part of the book, part 4. Conclusion, where Grant shows us how to build rethinking into our daily lives and into the future of society itself. Chapter 11, actions for impact, rethinking for the future. So what do we do with all this? We've learned how to rethink our own beliefs, how to open the minds of others, and how to help groups escape tunnel vision. But the big question remains, how do we make rethinking a daily habit? Adam Grant offers a roadmap. He says rethinking isn't a one-time event, it's a lifestyle. Just like going to the gym keeps your body fit, constant rethinking keeps your mind fit. Here are a few powerful practices. Build a challenge network. Instead of surrounding yourself with cheerleaders, invite critics who will poke holes in your ideas. The goal isn't comfort, it's growth. Update your opinions regularly. Treat your beliefs like software. Don't wait until they crash. Run updates frequently. Embrace micro experiments. Instead of debating endlessly, test your assumptions in the real world. Small experiments beat big arguments. Teach kids to rethink. The earlier we normalize curiosity and humility, the better prepared the next generation will be. Grant's closing message is both sobering and inspiring. The greatest tragedy isn't being wrong, it is being unwilling to rethink. Because the future doesn't belong to the know-it-alls, it belongs to the learn-it-alls, the people who stay curious, humble, and brave enough to admit they don't have all the answers. So the next time you feel certain about something, pause, ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? What else could be true? That one question might just change your life. If you want more summaries like that one, please hit the subscribe button and don't forget to turn on the notification.